So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Danny Phantom. So let's start the series. The Fracture of Two Worlds. The air in the land of lightning tasted of ozone and desperation. Thunder rumbled not from the sky, but from the churning, volatile mass of chakra at the valley's heart. Naruto Uzumaki, cloaked in the burning scarlet aura of Kurama's Nine-Tails chakra mode, landed hard on a jagged outcrop, his breath coming in ragged, focused gasps. Below him, the remnants of the allied shinobi forces clashed with the monstrous, serpentine form of the Ten-Tails. The war for the world's very soul was reaching its crescendo. Again. Push it back. Kakashi's command, sharp even over the din, echoed from somewhere to his left. Sasuke, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan a swirling vortex of purple, stood silhouetted against a blast of tailed beast energy. Naruto's heart hammered, not with fear, but with a furious, protective resolve. Just a little more. We can end this. He formed a cross sign, and 1,000 shadow clones erupted around him, a golden-hued army of determination. At that same moment, miles away in the ruins of the Akatsuki's final stronghold, a sealing array of impossible complexity, reverse-engineered from the Geto statue and fueled by the stolen remnants of multiple tailed beasts, activated. It was a last-ditch, catastrophic gamble by a dying Obito, a final attempt to force the infinite Tsukuyomi. The array didn't just draw on chakra, it tore at the fabric of reality, seeking to bind the very concept of life and consciousness. In Amity Park, in a lab beneath a perpetually creaky house, a 16-year-old boy with black hair and too many responsibilities sighed as he flicked the final switch on the Fenton Ghost portal. A routine energy diagnostic. But the readings were spiking erratically, a cascade failure in the ecto-containment grid. "Tucker, are you sure you didn't download another alien operating system onto the mainframe?" Danny Fenton asked, his voice edged with tired humor. "My tech is pristine, dude. It's your dad's ecto-fusion enhancers. I told you they'd create a feedback loop," Tucker replied, fingers flying over his PDA. The portal's low hum became a shriek. The metal ring spun violently, and a geyser of virulent, acidic green energy erupted, not into the ghost zone, but inward, buckling the very space around it. The overload wasn't a simple explosion, it was a rupture in the membrane separating the living world from the infinite, silent dimensions of the dead. It sought connection, a release of pressure, and in the void, it found the one other point in the multiverse performing an equally catastrophic act of dimensional binding. In the land of lightning, the Akatsuki's sealing array flared with the brilliance of a dying star. In Amity Park, the Fenton portal erupted in a coronet of anti-light. The laws of physics, of chakra, of ectobiology, screamed in unison. And reality fractured. For Naruto, there was no transition. One moment he was pouring every ounce of his will into a final Raisin Shuriken, the deafening roar of the battle filling his senses. The next, there was a sound like the world tearing in half, a wet, visceral rip that he felt in his bones and in Kurama's startled snarl within him. The scarlet chakra cloak flickered, warped. The familiar, earthy tones of the battlefield bled away, replaced by a nauseating swirl of color and a sensation of falling up. He saw Sasuke's outstretched hand, his eyes wide with something that wasn't fear, but shock, a look Naruto had never seen on his rival's face. Then, everything was swallowed by a green so profound it felt alive and hungry. He was spat out into silence. Naruto hit a flat, hard surface with a grunt, rolling several times before coming to a stop. The air was cool, sterile. The sounds were wrong. No clash of steel, no explosion of jutsu. Instead, a low, electrical hum, the distant, lonely wail of a siren, and the chirping of crickets. He pushed himself up, his senses screaming. His chakra felt strange, sluggish, like oil mixed with water. The Nine-Tails cloak was gone, forcibly extinguished. Kurama's presence in his mind was a low, pained growl. "What was that? Brat, where are we? This place, it reeks of death, but not any death I know." "I don't know," Naruto whispered, his voice hoarse. He took in his surroundings. He was on a rooftop, surrounded by a forest of sleek, geometric towers of glass and steel that pierced a purple-black sky. Strange, glowing signs adorned them, displaying words he couldn't read and images of smiling people holding unrecognizable objects. The air smelled of concrete, exhaust, and something else, something faintly metallic and ozone-tingled, like after a lightning strike, but colder. Panic, cold and sharp, began to needle at him. This wasn't any of the 5 great nations. This wasn't anywhere. He was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Sakura, Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke, were they gone? Were they dead? Was the war over? Had they won, or lost everything in that final, terrible light? A different light caught his eye. A streak of white, trailing an echo of that same sickly green, shot across the sky between the buildings. It moved with a fluid, impossible grace, arcing and diving. A bird? No. It was vaguely human-shaped. An enemy? A scout from some unknown village? His shinobi instincts, dulled by disorientation, snapped back into focus. He was in hostile, unknown territory. Intel was paramount. He cloaked himself in a basic transformation jutsu, taking the appearance of a nondescript local in the strange, simple clothing he'd glimpsed on flickering screens, a dark jacket and pants. He dropped from the rooftop, landing in a shadowed alley that reeked of garbage and that cold, ozone smell, now stronger. The streets were wide, paved with smooth, black stone. Metal carriages without horses moved with a growl, their eyes glowing. People walked past, oblivious, illuminated by the cold glow of street lamps. They looked normal. Civilians. But their clothes, their mannerisms, the snippets of their conversations, it was all wrong. Their energy signatures are weak. Barely a flicker of life force. But the background, the very air is saturated with a low-level energy. It's inert, but it's everywhere, Kurama muttered, his voice tense. And there are holes. Tiny, thin places. I can sense something on the other side. Something watching. Naruto felt it too. A prickle on the back of his neck, a sense of being observed not by a person, but by the environment itself. He kept to the shadows, moving with a shinobi's silence, his blue eyes scanning everything. A large, ornate building with a sign proclaiming, Casper High loomed. A park with twisted, playful structures. It was all so peaceful, so mundane, and that made the wrongness of his situation even more terrifying. Then, the air temperature dropped sharply. The streetlights on the corner flickered and died. The few civilians there hurried away, muttering about faulty wiring again. From the wall of the bank building, a figure oozed out. It was humanoid but elongated, its body a study in monochrome prison stripes, its head a grotesque, cartoonish skull with glowing green eyes. It cackled, a sound like rattling chains and broken glass, and lifted a hand. A ball of concentrated cold energy, glowing with that same eerie green, formed in its palm. All right, cough it up, people. Literally. Your wallets, your jewels, your sentimental valuables, the creature screeched. The box ghost is claiming this territory in the name of, well, me. Naruto stared, his mind struggling to process. A ghost? Like, an actual spirit of the dead? But it was solid, tangible, and it was threatening civilians. It wasn't a genjutsu. The energy it wielded was alien, but the malicious intent was universal. Before he could move, a new streak of white and green slammed down from the sky, intercepting the bolt of energy the box ghost fired at a fleeing woman. The energy blast dissipated against a shimmering, semi-transparent dome that appeared instantly. Give it a rest, Boxy. It's a Tuesday. Don't you have, I don't know, some cardboard to organize? The voice was young, tired, and laced with sarcasm. Naruto's eyes widened. It was the white figure from the sky. A boy, maybe his own age, floated a few feet off the ground. He wore a black and white jumpsuit, his hair was white as snow, and his eyes were a luminous, piercing green. He crackled with a contained, powerful energy that made the air hum. That's it. Kurama's voice was sharp with recognition. That's the energy from the fracture. It's in him. He's saturated with it. He's not human, not entirely. The box ghost wailed in indignation and launched a barrage of ectoblasts. The white-clad boy, Danny Phantom, sighed as if this was a profound inconvenience and moved. His movements were not like a shinobi's, there was no wasted motion, no set stance. He phased through one blast, became intangible, then solidified, weaving with an instinctual, aerial fluidity that was mesmerizing. He fired his own blast of energy, a concise beam of green that encased the box ghost in a thermos-like device that materialized in his hand. One ghost, extra whiny, Danny muttered to himself, securing the thermos on his hip. He started to lift off. Naruto acted without conscious thought. He was alone, in a world with hostile spirits and a being who seemed to fight them. This boy was a variable, a potential source of information, or a potential threat. He had to know. He dropped the transformation and leaped, not with chakra-enhanced speed, but with pure physical prowess, landing on a fire escape right in Danny's path. Hey! Naruto called out, his voice cutting through the post-fight quiet. Danny jerked back, instantly on guard, his hands coming up, glowing with green energy. Whoa! Back off, pal. I don't know what rock you crawled out of, but I just cleaned up this neighborhood. Their eyes met. Naruto saw the wariness, the deep-seated fatigue, and a flicker of something else, loneliness, a burden carried in secret. Danny saw a kid his age with spiky blonde hair, wearing a bright orange jacket that screamed for attention, with marks on his cheeks that looked like whiskers, and eyes of such a vivid, trusting blue they were disarming. But the way he moved, the way he held himself, this wasn't a normal Amity Park weirdo. "I'm not from here," Naruto said, the truth simple and stark. "I don't know where here is." There was a tear. A green light. "I was in a war, and then I was here." "You fight those things. What are they? What is this place?" Danny's defensive stance didn't waver, but his eyes narrowed. "A war? Look, I don't have time for LARPers or interdimensional refugees. I've got homework. And a curfew." He began to turn, intent on flying away. Desperation clawed at Naruto's throat. "Please." The word was raw, stripped of his usual bravado. "My friends. I don't know if they're alive. I have to get back. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf." Something in the tone, the sheer, undisguised lostness, gave Danny pause. He'd heard plenty of crazy stories from ghosts and humans alike. But this. He looked at Naruto again. The orange jacket was scorched in places. There were faint, healing cuts on his arms. His eyes held the look of someone who had seen too much, too fast. It was a look Danny saw in his own mirror some nights. And then he felt it. A faint, but distinct, hum coming from the blonde boy. It wasn't ecto-energy. It was warmer, wilder, like a contained wildfire. It resonated strangely with his own core, making the ghostly part of him vibrate uneasily. It was the same feeling as the massive, reality-bending spike from his portal hours ago, just smaller. Personal. "Uzumaki?" Danny repeated, floating slowly down to land on the fire escape opposite Naruto. The metal groaned under his intangible then solid weight. "You're serious? My life is on the line." "I don't joke about that," Naruto said, a flicker of his old fire returning. Danny studied him for a long moment. The siren in the distance faded. The streetlights on the corner flickered back on. The normal, ignorant world of Amity Park reasserted itself, a stark contrast to the two extraordinary beings standing on a rusty fire escape. "This is Amity Park," Danny said finally, his voice quieter. "And those things are ghosts. Dead people with issues, basically. I handle them." He didn't offer his name. "Not yet. You said a green light. A tear. When?" "A few hours ago, by the sun. But my sun was in a different sky." Danny's blood ran cold. A few hours ago. The portal overload. It wasn't just a local event. It had ripped a hole somewhere else, too. And pulled something, someone, through. "Come on," Danny said, the decision made with a weary resignation that spoke of too many crises handled alone. "You can't stay out here. You look like you got hit by a bus. A ghost bus. My house has a basement. We can talk there." Without, he gestured vaguely at the sky, them noticing. Them? The government. Other ghosts. My parents. Danny shuddered slightly at the last one. "It's complicated. You coming or not?" It was a risk. A massive one. But Naruto had built his life on trusting his gut, on forging bonds through sheer, stubborn will. This strange, tired, powerful boy wasn't an enemy. He was an anchor in a world of incomprehensible chaos. "Yeah," Naruto said, offering a tentative, lopsided grin that didn't quite reach his anxious eyes. "Lead the way." As Danny led him through the shadowed back alleys of Amity Park, towards a suburban house that glowed with warm, normal light in the distance, Naruto felt the first, fragile thread of connection in this terrifying new world. And within him, Kurama remained unervingly silent, his consciousness focused outward, sensing the new energy swirling around them, tasting it. "Ectoplasm," the Ninetales finally mused, his voice a dark rumble in Naruto's mind. "The energy of the dead, given will. And it's mixing with our chakra, brat. I can feel it. Like poison, or like kindling." High above, unseen by either boy, a patch of the starless sky shimmered. A single, blood-red eye, ringed with concentric circles, peered down from the void between worlds. It focused on the retreating figures, lingering on the unique, blazing signature of Naruto's chakra ectoplasm hybrid energy, before winking out of existence. The hunt, across dimensions, had already begun. Next. Chapter 2, The Basement and the Breaking Point. The Fenton household wasn't what Naruto expected. It wasn't a hidden base or a fortified compound. It was a home. A slightly lopsided, two-story house with a weird metal tower on the roof, nestled on a street of other, equally normal-looking houses. Lights glowed in the windows. The sound of a television laugh track bled through the walls. It was so aggressively mundane it felt like a different kind of assault. Danny didn't go to the front door. He gestured for Naruto to follow him around the side, to a bulkhead door leading to the basement. My parents are enthusiastic ghost hunters. They're cool, but if they see you, they'll either try to dissect you or adopt you. Neither is great right now. He pulled the doors open, revealing a set of concrete steps descending into a chaos that made Naruto's eyes widen. The basement was a sprawling laboratory, cluttered with fantastical, dangerous-looking equipment. Wires snaked across the floor. Monitors displayed scrolling data and green, static-filled images. In the center of the room, dominating the space, was a massive, ominous metal archway set into the wall, the source, Naruto felt in his gut, of the cold, hungry energy he'd been sensing since he arrived. The ghost portal. It was silent now, but it hummed with a latent, terrifying power. "Welcome to Fenton Works," Danny said, his voice flat. He flipped a switch, and more utilitarian lights flickered on, casting long shadows from piles of junk and half-built inventions. Home sweet home. Don't touch anything. Seriously. That thing on the left will give you night vision but also permanent hiccups. Naruto stepped inside cautiously, his senses on high alert. The ambient ecto-energy was thick here, making his own chakra stir uneasily in response. He saw blueprints tacked to walls, schematics for weapons labeled Fenton Bazooka and Thermos. It was equal parts genius and madness. "Your parents built all this?" Naruto asked, unable to keep the awe from his voice. This was like something out of one of Master Jiraiya's wilder research notes. "Built it, live it, breathe it." Danny phased through a workbench, landing neatly on the other side, and gestured to a worn-out couch crammed between a rack of spectral safety cones and a crate of ectodecontamination gel. "Have a seat. You look like you're about to fall over." Now that the immediate adrenaline of the fight and the flight was fading, Naruto realized Danny was right. A deep, soul-crushing exhaustion was settling into his bones. He sank onto the couch, the springs groaning in protest. The silence between them stretched, heavy with unasked questions. Danny leaned against the edge of the portal controls, arms crossed. "So. Shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. What's that mean, exactly? Some kind of super soldier?" Naruto managed a tired smile. "Something like that. We use chakra, life energy, to perform jutsu. Techniques. For fighting, for healing, for everything. We protect our village." His voice caught. "Or we're supposed to." "And the war?" Naruto's hands clenched into fists on his knees. He saw the 10 tails, the faces of his friends swallowed by light. A monster. A goddess. A fight for everyone's future. We were so close to ending it. Then, the green light. Danny listened, his expression unreadable. He'd heard ghost stories about ancient battles, spectral armies clashing for eternity. But this was different. This was fresh, raw, and human. A sealing jutsu, you called it. A ritual to bind something? Yeah. A really powerful, stupid one. Danny pushed off the console and walked to a monitor, pulling up a log file. Graphs spiked violently. At exactly 3:42 p.m. today, my ghost portal, which is supposed to open into a dimension called the Ghost Zone, experienced a catastrophic overload. The energy surge didn't match any known ectosignature. It was like it hit a wall and bounced, but the wall was somewhere else. It tore a hole. A temporary one, I think. But big. He turned back to Naruto. You fell through that hole. The confirmation was a physical blow. Naruto was stranded. Can you open it again? Send me back? Danny's face tightened. I don't even know where back is. The Ghost Zone is infinite. It has pockets that look like every time period, every possibility. Your world could be a bubble floating out there somewhere. Finding it, he shook his head. And that's assuming reopening the portal from this side doesn't cause another fracture. Or attract something worse. He speaks sense, brat, Kurama grumbled. The fracture was a cosmic accident. Recreating it intentionally could unravel the threads holding this reality together. Or ours. So I'm stuck, Naruto said, the words hollow. For now, Danny replied, not unkindly. He ran a hand through his white hair. Look, you can stay down here. It's not much, but it's safe from my parents. I can bring you food. We can figure something out. I've got friends who are good at figuring out weird stuff. The offer of help, simple and direct, was a lifeline. Naruto felt a lump in his throat. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Danny gave a short, humorless laugh. Let's just say I know what it's like to be thrown into something you didn't ask for. To have power you never wanted and a job you can't quit. His green eyes met Naruto's blue ones. And you're not the only one who felt that fracture. Something's off. The ghost zone has been quieter than usual since it happened. That's never a good sign. It means the big guys are paying attention. Before Naruto could ask what the big guys were, a loud voice echoed from upstairs. Danny. Sweetie. Dinner. Danny flinched. That's my mom. I gotta go. Stay here. Don't make a sound. Don't touch the big red buttons. Especially the one labeled Total Spectral Rewind. He headed for the stairs, then paused. What can you do? With your chakra? Naruto focused, drawing on the familiar energy within. A blue, shimmering sphere of rotating chakra formed in his palm, humming with power. The Rasengan. The basement lights flickered in response, and the dormant portal gave a low, answering thrum. Ecto energy in the air swirled visibly, drawn toward the spinning ball like iron filings to a magnet. Danny stared, his jaw slightly slack. The raw, contained power was nothing like the explosive, wild energy of ghosts. It was precise, disciplined, and alive. And it was clearly interacting with his world's energy on a fundamental level. Okay, he breathed. Okay. Don't do that down here. The portal might think it's an invitation. He vanished up the stairs, leaving Naruto alone in the humming, cluttered dark. The silence was oppressive. Naruto let the Rasengan dissipate. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The weight of his situation settled over him like a physical blanket. He was in another world. His friends were gone, possibly dead. His village, his home, was out of reach. The Ninetales within him was a restless, confused presence. And the only ally he had was a teenage ghost boy with his own mountain of problems. We need to understand this energy, Kurama, he thought. It is a corrupting force, the fox replied, but his tone was more analytical than hostile. But it is also a tool. I felt it when you formed the Rasengan. Our chakra acted as a catalyst. It can shape the ectoplasm, give it a new form. This could be a weapon, or a path to destruction. Upstairs, the sounds of a family dinner, clinking cutlery, jovial chatter about ectosignatures and plasmic densities, drifted down. It was a sound so normal it was heartbreaking. Naruto thought of Ichiraku Ramen, of Irika-sensei, of Team 7 bickering. A fierce, burning determination ignited in his chest. He would not give up. He would find a way back. But to do that, he had to survive here first. And to survive, he needed to master this new, unstable amalgam of powers. He stood and began to move slowly through the lab, not touching, just observing. He saw Danny name on schoolbooks piled in a corner. A photo taped to a monitor showed a younger Danny with a black-haired girl in gothic clothes and a boy in a red beret, all smiling. Friends. He had a life here, too. A life he was risking by hiding a stranger from another dimension. The scanner on the main console beeped suddenly. A map of Amity Park flickered to life. A pulsating red dot appeared over the city's cemetery, accompanied by a sharp, rising whine. A moment later, Danny half fell, half phased through the basement door, his eyes wide. We've got a problem. A big one. The readings are off the charts. It's not a normal ghost. The energy signature, it's messed up. It's got traces of that fracture energy, and something else. Something hotter. What does that mean? Naruto asked, already on his feet. It means something came through that wasn't just a ghost. Or a ghost got fried by whatever crossed over. And it's raising the dead in Amity Park Cemetery. Danny's form began to glow, his legs dissolving into the familiar spectral tail. I have to go. I'm coming with you. No way. You don't know how to fight ghosts. Your energy might make it worse. I'm a shinobi, Naruto stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. Fighting is what I do. And if this is related to the fracture that brought me here, it's my responsibility. He met Danny's gaze. You can't handle everything alone. Trust me, I've tried. The words hung between them. Danny saw the unshakable resolve, the same stubborn protectiveness that drove him to face every ghost, every threat, no matter how outmatched he was. This interloper, this Naruto, understood the weight of the cape. Fine, Danny conceded, gritting his teeth. But you follow my lead. And for the love of the ancients, try not to get yourself killed. Or post-mortemed. They slipped out into the night. Danny flew, low and fast, and Naruto kept pace below, leaping from rooftop to rooftop with chakra-enhanced agility. The disparity in their movement was stark, one a creature of the air, the other of the earth, but their speed was matched. The cemetery was a scene from a nightmare. The ground was churned up, tombstones shattered. Wisps of green ectoplasm clung to the air like fog. And shambling through the mist were figures, skeletal, semi-transparent, dressed in tattered burial clothes. But these weren't normal ghosts. Their eye sockets burned with a faint, flickering orange light mixed with the usual green. They moved with a jerky, aggressive purpose, clawing at the air and emitting low, guttural moans. They're infused with something, Danny whispered, hovering beside Naruto behind a large mausoleum. It's like ecto-energy, but it's burning. It's unstable. At the center of the cemetery, near a cracked open mausoleum, stood the source. It was a humanoid ghost in tattered, ancient shinobi garb, its form flickering between transparency and solidity. But chained to its back, pulsing with a sickly orange-black flame, was a grotesque, semi-formed creature of stone and hatred, a fragment, a shard of the Geto statue. The failed sealing jutsu hadn't just moved Naruto, it had torn off a piece of the monstrous statue and fused it with a lingering spirit from the ghost zone, creating a grotesque hybrid. The statue shard single, Rinnegan-like eye swiveled wildly, and the ghost's mouth was open in a silent scream of agony and rage. That thing, it has chakra, Naruto breathed, horror dawning. Corrupted chakra. The hybrid spirit raised a hand. Ecto-energy, twisted and superheated by the malignant chakra, gathered into a swirling orb of green and orange fire. It wasn't a cohesive jutsu. It was a raw, screaming mass of pain and power. It fired. Danny shot forward, throwing up a shield. The blast hit, and the shield, which could withstand ghostly attacks, crackled. The orange energy ate at it, sizzling like acid. Danny cried out, the feedback jolting through him. Its energy disrupts mine, he yelled, straining to hold the shield. The shambling, infused zombies turned towards the sound, beginning to advance. Naruto didn't hesitate. This was his world's poison infecting this one. He burst from cover, a dozen shadow clones popping into existence around him. They didn't use Razengans. Instead, they used taijutsu, their fists and feet blazing with blue chakra. They found the zombies' movements were slow, predictable. A chakra-enhanced kick shattered a spectral ribcage, a punch dispersed a corrupted form. But for every one they dissolved, two more seemed to claw their way out of the ground, energized by the hybrid's toxic aura. Danny, meanwhile, engaged the core entity. He dodged blasts of the hybrid energy, firing his own ectoblasts. They seared the ghostly shinobi form, but the statue shard on its back seemed to absorb the damage, healing the spirit almost instantly. It lashed out with a chain of solidified ectoplasm, tipped with a kunai made of burning orange chakra. Danny phased, but the kunai passed through his intangible form and he screamed, a raw, shocking sound of pain. It had hurt him even in his ghost form. Its chakra can hit you even when you're intangible. Naruto shouted, dispelling his clones and landing beside Danny, who was clutching his arm where the kunai had passed through. His arm was smoking faintly, a burn that glowed with residual orange energy. Great, Danny hissed through clenched teeth. So it's a ghost that can hurt other ghosts with magic ninja energy. Perfect. The hybrid spirit focused on Naruto. The Rinnegan eye pulsed. It recognized the chakra. It craved it. It let out a shriek that was both the wail of a ghost and the grinding roar of stone, and charged. Naruto met the charge, a kunai of his own flashing into his hand. They clashed in a shower of sparks, steel against solidified ectochakra. The force of the blow was immense, driven by a madness that was more than spiritual. Naruto was pushed back, his feet digging trenches in the soft earth of a grave. Its chakra is a cancer, brat. Kurama roared. It is hatred-entailed beast energy, stripped of even my will, fused with the despair of the dead. You cannot purify it. You must destroy it. Danny, recovering, flew in a fast arc, firing a continuous stream of ecto-energy at the statue shard, trying to overwhelm its absorption. The shard darkened, cracks appearing, but the ghostly form writhed in greater agony, its screams intensifying. It was a vicious cycle. Hurting one part hurt the other, but fueled its rage. They were fighting a feedback loop of pain. Naruto saw it. The connection point, where the stone shard met the ghost's spiritual back. It was a seething, unstable nexus of both energies. An idea, desperate and born of instinct, formed. Danny, he yelled over the din, I need a direct shot at its back. Can you hold it? Just for a second. Easier said than done. Danny shot back, dodging another chain. But he saw Naruto's plan in his determined eyes. He took a deep breath, his own core flaring. Do it. On my mark. Danny dove straight at the hybrid's front, not attacking, but spreading his arms wide. He unleashed a focused, ultrasonic, ghostly wail. The visible wave of sound, pure concentrated ecto-energy, hit the entity head-on. It didn't damage it, it stunned it. The ghost and the shard recoiled, their energies faltering, locked in a momentary paralysis from the dissonant frequency. It was the opening Naruto needed. He wasn't just drawing on his chakra. He pulled on everything, his own life force, the ambient, wild ecto-energy swirling in the cemetery, and a thread of Kurama's furious power. He didn't form a Rasengan. He let the energies mix in his palm, not with discipline, but with sheer, desperate will. A sphere of violent, unstable energy formed, swirling blue chakra and crackling green ectoplasm in a chaotic vortex. He shot forward, a blur of orange and blue. He planted the unstable energy sphere directly onto the nexus where the shard met the ghost. Rasengan. Ectoburst. There was no explosion of light and sound. There was a silence, a vacuum that sucked in the surrounding mist, followed by a silent, expanding sphere of white. Then, the release. The hybrid entity didn't scream. It unraveled. The statue shard dissolved into black sand that evaporated. The ghostly form stretched into an elongating strand of green light before snapping apart into 1,000 harmless, drifting specks of light that faded into the night sky. The orange-black flame guttered and died. The remaining zombies in the cemetery collapsed into piles of inert dust. The silence that followed was absolute. Naruto fell to one knee, panting, his right arm numb and smoking slightly from the backlash of the mixed energy technique. Danny landed beside him, his breath coming in ragged gulps, the burn on his arm still glowing ominously. They looked at the empty space where the monster had been, then at each other. There was no victory in their eyes. Only a shared, profound horror at what they had just witnessed and what they had been forced to do. That, Danny said, his voice trembling slightly, was a piece of your war? Naruto nodded, a cold dread settling in his stomach. If a piece that small can do this, what if more came through? What if something bigger did? The implications hung in the cold cemetery air, heavier than any ghost. The fracture hadn't just stranded Naruto. It had opened a door for the worst aspects of his world to bleed into Danny's. And as they stood there, wounded and weary, both felt a new, more terrifying connection form between them, not just of shared circumstance, but of a shared, looming doom. In the depths of the ghost zone, in a castle of shifting obsidian and screams, a wealthy man with a taste for theatrics and a core of icy ecto-energy watched the aftermath on a scrying mirror. Vlad Masters smoothed his goatee, a slow, intrigued smile spreading across his face. How fascinating, he purred. A new flavor of energy. And young Daniel has found himself a little stray. A powerful, unstable stray. His eyes gleamed with malicious calculation. This changes the board entirely. Next. Chapter 3, The Stray and the Schemer. The walk back to Fenton Works was a silent, limping procession. The adrenaline had drained away, leaving behind a bone-deep ache and a chilling clarity. Danny's arm, where the corrupted chakra kunai had passed through, throbbed with a pain that was both familiar and alien. It was the deep freeze of an ectoblast, but layered with a scorching, lingering afterburn. He kept glancing at it, watching the faint orange embers dance under his pale skin before being swallowed by his own green-tinged ectoplasmic healing. Naruto wasn't much better off. His right arm, from fingertips to shoulder, was a tapestry of livid red and angry purple energy burns. The unstable fusion of chakra and ectoplasm had rebounded on him, the foreign energy searing his chakra pathways. He cradled it against his chest, his jaw set against the pain. Kurama's presence in his mind was a subdued, vigilant hum, the beast focusing its immense power on containing the damage and purging the invasive ecto-residue. This world's energy is a feral thing, the fox grumbled. It lacks discipline. It reacts, it does not obey. To mix it with chakra is to invite chaos. It worked, Naruto thought back stubbornly, though he couldn't deny the cost. It destroyed a maddened fragment. Do not mistake survival for mastery, brat. They slipped back into the basement through the bulkhead doors, the sterile, chaotic lab feeling more like a bunker than ever. Danny immediately went to a fridge humming in the corner, pulling out 2 metal canisters labeled Fenton Ectodecontaminant. He tossed one to Naruto. Spray it on the burns. It's for ectocontamination. Might. I don't know, calm down whatever that orange stuff is. Naruto caught it awkwardly with his good hand, fumbling with the nozzle. A cold, blue mist sprayed out, smelling of ozone and mint. When it touched his burns, the searing pain didn't vanish, but it dulled, the angry purple receding slightly under a layer of frost-like numbness. He let out a slow breath. Danny sprayed his own arm, hissing as the decontaminant met the corrupted energy. A small wisp of orange smoke hissed out of the spectral wound before it sealed over, leaving only a faint, scar-like discoloration. Okay, he said, leaning heavily on the workbench. We need to talk. Really talk. What was that thing? Naruto sank onto the couch, his energy spent. A piece of the monster we were fighting. A statue called the Ghetto Statue. It's a vessel for the chakra of tailed beasts. Demons from my world. He saw Danny's eyebrows shoot up. It's a long story. The point is, it's made of concentrated hatred and life force. That sealing jutsu must have shattered a piece of it and fused it with one of your ghosts. And the orange fire? The way it could hurt me even when I was intangible? Chakra, Naruto said simply. It's life energy. All living things have it. In my world, we can use it to affect spiritual and physical things. That ghost, it was half chakra construct. Your intangibility works on pure ecto energy. This was something else. It could interact with both. Danny processed this, his mind racing through the implications. A form of energy that could bridge the gap between the living and the dead, that could harm a ghost in its core state. It was terrifying. And if more of it was floating around the ghost zone? We have to find out if there are more fragments, Danny stated. And we need to understand how your chakra and my ecto energy work together. Or against each other. What you did back there, that wasn't just your power or mine. It was a new thing. A dangerous thing. It saved our lives, Naruto pointed out. This time. Danny's gaze was serious. What if next time it blows your arm off? Or turns you into a ghost zombie? We can't just wing it. The pragmatism was a cold splash of reality. Naruto was used to pushing his limits, to creating new jutsu through trial and error and sheer desperation. But the error here could have catastrophic, possibly dimensional, consequences. You're right, Naruto conceded, a novel feeling for him. So what's the plan? Before Danny could answer, the basement door at the top of the stairs creaked open. Both boys froze. Danny? You down there, sweetie? Maddie Fenton's voice called down. We heard some strange energy spikes on the spectrometer. Like that portal overload again, but different. Footsteps began descending the stairs. Panic flared in Danny's eyes. Naruto was in plain view, a battered, foreign-looking teenager in a bright orange jacket. There was no time to hide him, no explanation that wouldn't end with him in a ghost shield or on a dissection table. Instinct took over. Naruto formed a one-handed seal with his left hand, the motion blurred with pain but precise. A basic transformation jutsu. In a puff of smoke, which, in this ecto-rich environment, swirled with faint green sparks, he was replaced by a perfect replica of a Fenton family invention, a slightly dented, inactive Fenton thermos sitting on the couch. Danny stared for a split second, then quickly schooled his features into casual annoyance as his mother reached the bottom of the stairs. Maddie Fenton, clad in her blue jumpsuit, her red hair tied back, scanned the lab with sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. Just running diagnostics, Mom, Danny said, forcing a yawn. Probably another energy echo from the overload. This place is like a concert hall for bad vibrations. Maddie's eyes swept over the couch, lingering on the thermos for a moment. That's the prototype for the Mark III. I thought it was in the north rack. She took a step closer. Danny's heart hammered against his ribs. Oh, I was checking the insulation. Thought I heard a rattle. He moved casually to block her direct path. Maddie gave him a fond, slightly suspicious smile. Always tinkering. Just like your father. Her eyes then landed on his arm, on the faint, discolored scar. Sweetie, what happened to your arm? Bumped it on the portal ring when I was checking the gyro stabilizers, Danny lied smoothly, a skill honed by years of secret ghost fighting. It's nothing. She took his arm, her touch gentle but her scientist's gaze analytical. The epidermal discoloration is unusual, almost a thermal pattern mixed with ectoplasmic scarring. She looked at him, her concern deepening. You'd tell me if you'd encountered something new, wouldn't you? Something from the overload? The question was laden with unspoken worry. Danny knew his parents loved him, but their zeal to understand ghosts often overrode everything else. Telling them about Naruto, about the hybrid, would unleash a frenzy of study that would trap the blonde shinobi in a gilded cage of tests and questions forever. Of course, Mom, Danny said, meeting her eyes with practiced ease. It's probably just a weird bruise. You know how it is with ectocontamination. Maddie searched his face for a moment longer, then nodded, seemingly satisfied. All right. Dinner's in the fridge if you're hungry. Don't stay up too late. She gave the thermos on the couch one last, puzzled look before heading back upstairs. The moment the door clicked shut, Danny slumped against the workbench, letting out a long, shaky breath. That was too close. In another puff of smoke, Naruto reappeared, wincing as the movement jarred his injured arm. Your mom's intense. You have no idea. Danny pushed off the bench. Okay, new priority number 1, you need a better cover. And we need to get a look at your arm with proper equipment. My parents' scanners might be able to tell us what that hybrid energy did to you. He led Naruto to a side station, a medical bay of sorts, equipped with scanners that looked like they belonged in a UFO. Sit. Naruto complied, watching as Danny powered up a machine that bathed his injured arm in a pale blue light. Holographic schematics flickered to life above it, showing the flow of energy in his body. The familiar, river-like blue pathways of his chakra network were vividly clear. But snaking through them, like vicious red vines, were traces of the orange-black corruption from the hybrid. And surrounding everything, intermingling with his own chakra at the edges, was a faint, shimmering green aura, ambient ectoplasm his body was slowly, involuntarily absorbing. Whoa, Danny whispered, zooming in on the display. Your energy system, it's like a circuit board made of light. And the corruption, it's not just sitting there. It's trying to replicate. It's using the ecto-energy as a catalyst. He is correct, Kurama's voice was a sharp warning in Naruto's mind. The fragment's energy is malignant. It seeks to spread. This world's energy is unstable enough to allow it. Can you get rid of it? Naruto asked, a thread of fear in his voice for the first time. He'd faced poisons, curses, and chakra diseases, but nothing that felt so inherently wrong. Danny chewed his lip, his mind racing through his parents' research files he'd memorized. Ecto-energy is malleable. It responds to emotion, to will. My decontaminant suppresses it, but it's not a cure for whatever this is. An idea sparked. What about your chakra? Can you, I don't know, push it out? Purify it from the inside? Naruto closed his eyes, focusing inward. He drew on his chakra, directing it toward the red vines of corruption. The blue chakra flowed around them, but where it touched, the orange energy flared, fighting back. It was like trying to extinguish a grease fire with water. It splattered, spreading the burn. He gasped, his arm spasming. Stop. Danny said, watching the reading spike dangerously. It's antagonistic. Your chakra is making it worse. He paced, thinking. But the ecto-energy, it's neutral. It's the medium. What if we didn't fight it with chakra? What if we diluted it? Overwhelmed it with a controlled, clean source of ecto-energy? Isolated it and then expelled it? Naruto looked at him blankly. How? A slow, determined smile spread across Danny's face. It was the look he got when he was about to do something stupidly brilliant. We give you a booster shot. A pure, concentrated infusion of ecto-energy, directly into your system. My parents have been working on ecto-infusion therapy for ghost-induced injuries in humans. It's theoretical. Mostly. Absolutely not. Kurama roared. Infusing this chaotic energy directly into your system? It would be like inviting a blizzard into a forge. You would be torn apart. Theoretical? Naruto echoed, his own bravado warring with Kurama's warning. The principle is sound, Danny insisted, already pulling components from shelves. We use a filtered, stabilized stream. We target the corrupted zones directly. Your chakra system is robust, it can handle the influx if we're careful. It's like flushing a wound with clean water. The corruption is using the ambient ecto-energy to grow. We flood the area with controlled energy, cutting off its food source and giving your body the tools to push it out. It was a gamble. A huge one. But Naruto saw the logic. And he saw the alternative, letting this piece of the ghetto statue fester inside him, possibly transforming him into something like the hybrid they'd just destroyed. Do it, he said. Danny worked with a frantic, focused energy. He hooked up a series of filters to the main ecto-containment unit, calibrated a needle-like infuser normally used for spectral samples. This is going to feel very weird. He inserted the infuser into Naruto's shoulder, near the largest cluster of corruption. Okay. Initiating infusion. On 3. 1, 2. He didn't say 3. He flipped the switch. A wave of icy cold shot through Naruto's veins, followed immediately by a sensation of exhilarating, weightless expansion. It wasn't pain. It was like his cells were being filled with light, cold, electric light. On the scanner, the shimmering green aura around him intensified, becoming a brilliant emerald glow. It flooded his chakra pathways, surrounding the red vines of corruption. The orange-black energy recoiled, hissing like a cornered animal. It thrashed, but the pure, dense ecto-energy Danny was pumping in acted like a solvent, breaking its bonds to Naruto's chakra. The red vines began to fragment, to dissolve into inert gray motes. But then, something unexpected happened. Naruto's own chakra, sensing the foreign energy not as an attack but as a strange ally, began to react. It didn't fight the ecto-energy. It curled around it. The blue and the green began to spin together at the points of contact, not merging, but orbiting each other in a complex, beautiful dance. A new, stable hybrid energy formed at the boundaries, a teal-colored, humming power that felt both alive and eternally still. On the scanner, the corruption was purged, vanishing completely. But in its place, at several key nexus points in Naruto's chakra network, small, stable nodes of this new teal energy now pulsed softly. Danny shut off the infusion, his eyes wide. What is that? Naruto flexed his arm. The pain was gone. Not just the burn, but the deep ache of the corruption. His arm felt stronger than before, humming with a cool, steady power. He focused, and a wisp of teal energy, like ghostly blue-green flame, flickered around his fingertips. A synthesis, Kurama murmured, his voice filled with stunned awe. Not a corruption, but a symbiosis. Your chakra has accepted the ecto-energy. It has created a buffer, a new form of energy that belongs to both worlds, and to you alone. Naruto looked at Danny, a grin spreading across his face. I think, we just made a new jutsu. Or a new me. Before Danny could respond, the main computer console blared an alarm. Not a ghost alert. A security breach alert. External cameras flickered on the main screen, showing the front yard. A sleek, black limousine with tinted windows was idling at the curb. The back door opened, and a tall, elegant man in an impeccably tailored white suit stepped out. He had silver hair, a neatly trimmed goatee, and an air of sophisticated menace. He adjusted his cufflinks, looked directly at the hidden camera, and smiled a smile that didn't reach his cold blue eyes. Danny's blood ran cold. Vlad. Who? Naruto asked, sensing the sudden shift in Danny's demeanor from worried scientist to prey animal. Vlad Masters. Plasmius. My parents' old college rival. A billionaire. A half-ghost like me. And the closest thing I have to an arch-nemesis. Danny's hands clenched. He's here. And he never makes house calls unless he wants something. On the screen, Vlad raised a hand and gave a polite, mocking little wave towards the camera. Then he mouthed two words, clear enough to read on the monitor. Hello, Daniel. And friend. The connection was made. The secret was out. The schemer had arrived, and the game had just become infinitely more dangerous. Next. Chapter 4, The Unwelcome Guest. The air in the basement, which had just moments before buzzed with the thrill of discovery, turned to ice. Danny stared at the screen, Vlad's smug, knowing face feeling like a physical violation of his one safe space. How does he know? Danny breathed, his mind racing. The energy spike from the fight? The infusion? He has sensors all over town. Naruto was on his feet, his body thrumming with the new, teal-tinged energy. The fatigue was gone, burned away by the infusion and the fresh surge of adrenaline. He saw the genuine fear in Danny's eyes, a fear that wasn't for himself, but for the secret he was trying to protect. What do we do? The doorbell rang upstairs, a cheerful, normal sound that was horribly out of place. They heard Maddie's voice call out, I'll get it. No. Danny hissed, but it was too late. He heard the front door open, heard his mother surprised, then politely guarded greeting. Vlad. This is unexpected. Maddie, my dear, you look radiant as ever. I do hope I'm not intruding. I was in the neighborhood and detected some fascinating energy readings emanating from your lovely home. A side effect of Jack's latest invention, no doubt. Vlad's voice, smooth as silk and cold as a tomb, drifted down the stairwell. Danny acted. He grabbed Naruto's good arm. You have to hide. For real this time. Not as a thermos. Somewhere he can't sense you. Where? Danny's eyes darted to the silent, ominous arch of the ghost portal. In there. Naruto balked. The hole to the dead dimension? Are you crazy? It's the only place saturated with enough ecto-energy to mask your unique signature. The on switch is broken, it won't activate. Just step into the archway and stay perfectly still. Don't touch the sides. He won't look there. He thinks he owns the place. Danny's voice was frantic but compelling. With no better option, Naruto nodded. He moved to the portal, stepping into the dark metal arch. The air within was colder, thicker, and hummed with a profound, sleeping power. It felt like standing in the mouth of a glacier. He pressed his back against the cool metal, forcing his breathing to slow, and became a shadow. Danny quickly sprayed a can of anti-ghost aerosol around the area, a product designed to confuse spectral senses, then vaulted over a workbench and pretended to be engrossed in a dismantled Fenton finder just as the basement door opened again. "Danny's down here, Vlad," Maddie said, her tone carefully neutral as she led the way down. "Though I'm not sure what you expect to find." Vlad Masters descended the stairs with the grace of a panther, his white suit impossibly pristine in the chaotic lab. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept the room, missing nothing. They lingered on the scanner that was still displaying the fading readouts of Naruto's chakra network, on the ecto-infuser still connected to its power source, and finally on Danny. "Daniel," Vlad purred. "Tinkering as always. I must say, the energy signature your little experiment gave off was quite unique. A turbulent mix of ectoplasmic frequencies and something altogether more vibrant. More alive. Care to enlighten an old friend?" Danny didn't look up from the guts of the scanner. "Just calibrating the filters, Fruit Loop. The overload fried half the systems. You're reading feedback ghosts." Vlad chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Such a creative imagination. But you see, my sensors are far more precise than your parents'. They isolated 2 distinct biosignatures during that fascinating cemetery disturbance. One was yours, Daniel. A known quantity, if delightfully unpredictable." He took a step closer, his gaze piercing. "The other was an utter mystery. A bonfire of life energy, wrapped in a shell of disciplined power I've never encountered. And then, just minutes ago, that same signature flared right here, in this lab, mingling with a controlled ecto-infusion. Tell me, Daniel, have you adopted a stray?" From the portal, Naruto watched, every muscle taut. He saw the way Vlad held himself, relaxed, but with the poised readiness of a seasoned fighter. This was no mere arrogant billionaire. This was a predator. Maddie looked between Vlad and her son, confusion and dawning concern on her face. "Danny? What is he talking about?" "He's talking nonsense, Mom," Danny said, finally looking up, meeting Vlad's eyes with a defiance that was almost convincing. "Probably a new species of ectopseudopod that absorbed some radiation. You know how weird the zone's been since the overload. A pseudopod that fights with the tactical precision of a special forces operative and wields an energy that disrupts fundamental ghost physiology?" Vlad's smile was razor-thin. "I think not." He turned his attention to Maddie, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "Maddie, my dear, you must consider the possibility that the portal overload didn't just release energy. It may have attracted something. Something from a dimension adjacent to our ghost zone. Something that could be incredibly dangerous. Or," he added, his eyes glinting, "incredibly useful." He was weaving a narrative, painting a target on Naruto's back while positioning himself as the concerned expert. Danny saw the trap closing. "Whatever it is, we can handle it," Maddie said, her protective instincts kicking in. "The Fentons have protocols for interdimensional intruders." "Of course you do," Vlad said patronizingly. "But this is beyond protocols. This is a matter of dimensional security. I've already taken the liberty of alerting the mayor and the local GIW contingent. They'll be very interested in this stray." He let the threat hang in the air. The guys in white were a government ghost hunting agency with a shoot first and never ask questions policy. Danny's blood ran cold. If the GIW got hold of Naruto. Vlad's eyes flickered again to the ghost portal. He took a casual step towards it. The resonance seemed strongest over here. As if the entity is drawn to the gate between worlds. He was now within 10 feet of the arch where Naruto hid. Naruto held his breath. He could feel the man's energy now, a cold, controlled, and vast pool of ectoplasmic power, laced with a bitterness that felt decades old. It was similar to Danny's, but older, harder, and infinitely more cruel. Danny moved, placing himself subtly between Vlad and the portal. "The portal's unstable, Vlad. You triggering another overload wouldn't look good on your billionaire resume." It was a weak bluff, and Vlad saw right through it. His eyes narrowed, focusing on the space behind Danny. He raised a hand, not in attack, but in a delicate, sensing gesture. A faint, pinkish ecto-energy wafted from his fingertips, a seeking tendril. It drifted past Danny, towards the portal arch. It brushed against the anti-ghost aerosol mist and sizzled, dissipating slightly, but a thread of it reached the threshold. It touched the hem of Naruto's orange jacket. A tiny spark, teal and pink, flashed in the darkness of the archway. Vlad's eyes lit up with triumphant discovery. "Ah. There you are." He didn't attack Naruto. He attacked Danny. A swift, Casual backhand gesture sent a concentrated blast of pink energy that Danny barely had time to raise his arms to block. The force lifted him off his feet and slammed him into a rack of spare parts with a deafening crash. "Danny!" Maddie shouted, her maternal concern instantly overriding her scientist's caution. She reached for her ecto-gun, but Vlad was faster. A flick of his wrist and a cage of crackling pink energy materialized around her, a sophisticated containment field that hummed with power. She pounded on it, her shouts muffled. "Now," Vlad said, turning fully to face the portal, his form beginning to glow with an internal light. "Let's meet our visitor properly." Naruto stepped out of the shadows of the archway. There was no point in hiding anymore. His blue eyes were hard, his stance that of a shinobi facing a superior enemy. He assessed the situation, Danny groaning amid shattered equipment, Maddie trapped, Vlad blocking the only exit. A direct fight in a confined space filled with volatile technology was a terrible idea. "You must be the stray," Vlad said, looking Naruto up and down with open fascination. "Such a curious energy signature. It's like sunlight and thunder given form. Tell me, boy, what are you?" "I'm Naruto Uzumaki," he said, his voice steady. "And you're in my way." Vlad's eyebrows raised. "Spirited. I admire that. But you are in my world now. And here, unique assets are to be studied, understood, and utilized." He extended a hand, palm up. Pink energy coalesced into a swirling, miniature vortex. "Come quietly. My facilities are far more comfortable than the Fenton's basement. And the alternatives are so very messy." Naruto's answer was a blur of motion. He didn't have room for clones, so he used the basic shinobi arts. He flung a handful of shuriken, ordinary metal ones from his pouch, not at Vlad, but at the ceiling lights and the various humming power conduits on the walls. The lab plunged into semi-darkness, lit only by emergency strips and the glow of contained equipment. In the strobing gloom, Naruto moved. He wasn't aiming for Vlad. He was aiming for the containment field around Maddie. He didn't know how to break ghost tech, but he knew energy. His teal-tinged chakra flared around his fist, and he drove it into the base of the pink energy cage. The reaction was immediate and violent. The stable pink ecto-energy and Naruto's new hybrid chakra didn't cancel each other out, they overloaded. The cage exploded in a shower of sparking, fizzing light, the feedback causing Vlad to flinch momentarily. Maddie, free, didn't hesitate. She tackled Vlad from the side, not with ghost-fighting tech, but with pure, furious mother bear strength, driving him away from Naruto and her son. "Run, Danny," she screamed. Danny was already up, shaking off the dizziness. He saw his chance. He didn't go for Vlad. He flew to Naruto's side. "The window. Now." They bolted for the high, narrow basement window. Danny phased through it instantly. Naruto covered his head with his arms and simply crashed through, glass and frame exploding outward in a shower of splinters and tinkling shards. They hit the backyard and kept moving, vaulting fences, disappearing into the maze of suburban alleys behind the house. The sounds of struggle from the basement faded behind them. They didn't stop until they were 3 blocks over, hidden in the play structure of a deserted park. Both boys slumped against the plastic slide, breathing heavily. "My mom," Danny gasped, guilt etched on his face. "She was holding her own," Naruto said, though he wasn't sure. "Vlad was powerful. She bought us time." "Who is that guy?" "Vlad Plasmius," Danny said, the name a curse. "He got half-ghost powers in the same accident that gave me mine, years later. He's obsessed with my mom, hates my dad, and sees me as an obstacle to his twisted, perfect family fantasy. He's also the smartest, richest, and most powerful ghost I know. And now he knows about you." "He called the authorities," Naruto said, remembering. "The GIW. They're like, ghost fascists. If they find you, they'll put you in a lab forever. Or just delete you." Danny ran a hand through his hair. "We can't go back home. Vlad will be watching. My parents," his face crumpled for a second before he steeled himself. "I need to contact Sam and Tucker." "Your friends?" "The only ones I can trust." Danny pulled a sleek phone from his pocket, a modified Fenton phone's device. He typed a rapid, coded message. Naruto looked down at his hands, where teal energy still flickered faintly. The infusion had healed him, given him a new power, but it had also painted a beacon on him. He was a stranger, a destabilizing element in a world with its own fragile balance of power. He'd brought his war's poison with him, and now he'd drawn the attention of its most dangerous native predator. "I'm sorry, Danny," he said, the words heavy. "I didn't mean to drag you into this. Into my mess." Danny looked at him, and for the first time, Naruto saw not just the tired ghost fighter, but the core of unwavering decency that drove him. You didn't drag me. The fracture did. And you're not a mess. You're a person. And Vlad, he treats people like tools. I won't let him have you. He offered a grim, determined smile. Besides, he called you a stray. I've always had a thing for underdogs. A flicker of warmth cut through the cold dread in Naruto's chest. It was the same feeling he got from Irika, from Kakashi, from the bonds he'd forged in his own world. A bond of protection, of chosen family. Danny's phone buzzed. He read the message, his expression hardening. Sam's house. 10 minutes. She says she's got a plan. And that we look terrible on the emergency band police scanner. They moved through the night, two figures clinging to the shadows, one flying low between rooftops, the other a silent, speeding blur on the ground below. The comfortable, ignorant lights of Amity Park felt like a lie now, a thin veneer over a world of ghosts, government conspiracies, and interdimensional feuds. They arrived at a large, Gothic-style mansion surrounded by organic gardens. A girl with dark purple hair and a determined expression was waiting at a side door, ushering them in quickly. Behind her, a boy in a red beret and glasses was furiously typing on a handheld computer. You're trending on the GIW secure server, Tucker Foley said without looking up. They've got a file labeled Epsilon subject. Blurry photo from a traffic cam. Description, male, approximate 16, high-energy life form, extreme threat. They've mobilized 2 squads. Sam Manson closed the door, locking it. Her eyes went from Danny's bruised form to Naruto's torn clothes and intense gaze. Okay. New guy. Dimension-hopping ninja. Danny's in trouble. Standard Tuesday. Let's get to work. She pointed to a basement staircase. My parents are at a sustainability conference in Norway. We have the house. And I have an idea. In the fortified quiet of Sam's basement, a stark contrast to the Fenton's chaotic lab, filled with protest posters, rare plants, and high-end computers, the fragile alliance between two worlds began to formalize. But far away, in his penthouse overlooking the city, Vlad Masters smoothed his goatee as he watched the feed from a dozen hidden cameras he'd planted around Amity Park years ago. He had lost the physical pursuit, but he had gained everything he needed. On his screen, he replayed the moment Naruto's teal energy interacted with his containment field. He isolated the energy signature, running simulations. Such fascinating potential, he murmured to the empty room. Daniel's emotional attachment is a bonus. It makes him predictable. And this, Naruto, his energy isn't just a weapon. It's a key. A key to stabilizing dimensional rifts, to harnessing powers the Ghost Zone has never yielded. His eyes glowed with a soft, pink light. The boy is not a stray. He is a prize. And every prize needs a proper owner. He typed a command into his computer, sending an encrypted data packet not to the GIW, but to a private, offshore server. The subject line read, Project Chimera, Phase 1 Acquisition. The hunt was no longer a chase. It was a calculated extraction. And Vlad always got what he wanted. Next. Chapter 5, Safe House and Shifting Sands. Sam Manson's basement was a sanctuary of controlled chaos. Unlike the Fenton Lab's frenetic invention, this space was a deliberate statement. Shelves held books on eco-anarchism and the occult. The walls were plastered with posters for banned bans and protests against spectral oppression. The air smelled of potting soil and ozone from the banks of humming computer equipment Tucker had wired together. It was a command center for a different kind of war. Naruto stood in the middle of the room, feeling like a caged tiger. The adrenaline from the escape had faded, leaving him twitchy and exposed. He watched as Sam efficiently cleaned and bandaged a cut on Danny's forehead from his collision with the parts rack. Tucker's fingers flew across 3 different keyboards, streams of data reflecting in his glasses. GIW are setting up checkpoints on all major roads out of Amity Park, Tucker reported, his voice calm but tense. They're using spectre detectors, but they've recalibrated them to scan for a non-ectoplasmic life energy anomaly. That's you, dude. He glanced at Naruto. They've also issued a community alert about a dangerous escaped exotic animal. Clever. Makes people look for a weird dog instead of a blonde kid in orange. My parents? Danny asked, his voice tight. Sam finished with the bandage. The police scanner had a call about a disturbance at Fenton Works. No arrests. Your mom reported a failed break-in by a rival inventor. She covered for you. Smart. Danny let out a shaky breath, relief and guilt warring on his face. She's okay. For now. Vlad won't let this go, Sam said, crossing her arms. She looked at Naruto, her gaze analytical but not unkind. He sees power, he wants to own it. And you, Naruto, are a new kind of power. Danny says you mixed your energy with ectoplasm. Created something new. Naruto held up his hand, focusing. The teal energy, cool and steady, flickered to life around his fingers. It cast a faint, aquatic glow on their faces. It healed the corruption. But it's there. Part of me now. Sam leaned closer, fascinated. It's stable. Not like ghost energy, which is all emotion and impulse. It's disciplined. It's chakra, Naruto explained. Life energy. We mold it with hand signs and willpower. He demonstrated a simple clone technique. With a puff of smoke, this time tinged with a wisp of teal, a single, solid shadow clone appeared beside him. It nodded once, then dispelled. Tucker whistled. Solid light holography with mass? That breaks about 7 laws of physics. It breaks the laws of your physics, Danny corrected, a ghost of his usual humor returning. His world runs on different rules. And now those rules are leaking into ours. Which is why we need a plan that isn't just run and hide, Sam stated. She walked to a whiteboard and picked up a marker. Problem 1, Naruto is a beacon. His energy signature is unique and, thanks to Vlad, now flagged by every sensor in the city. She wrote beacon in bold letters. Problem 2, the GIW. They're a blunt instrument. If they find him, game over. GIW. Problem 3, Vlad Plasmius. A sharp instrument. He wants to dissect the problem, understand it, and use it. Plasmius. Problem 4, the fracture. More of Naruto's worlds, leftovers, could be floating around the ghost zone, causing who knows what kind of trouble. Fracture spillage. She capped the marker. We tackle them in order. First, we hide the beacon. How? Naruto asked. I can't just turn it off. No, Sam agreed. But we can mask it. Tucker, pull up the schematics for the specter deflector your parents built for you, Danny. The one that hides your ghost half from scanners. Danny blinked. The SD? It's for ecto-energy. It won't work on chakra. Not as is, Tucker said, already pulling up the blueprints on a large monitor. But the principle is sound. It creates a low-level, inverted ectofield around the wearer that cancels out their unique spectral signature. We just need to recalibrate it to cancel out Naruto's chakra-ecto hybrid signature. We need a sample to tune it to. Naruto didn't hesitate. He formed a small, stable orb of the teal energy, about the size of a marble, and held it out. It hummed softly. Tucker carefully took a scanning wand and passed it through the energy, his computer capturing every frequency. This is crazy advanced. It's like nothing on the periodic table. It's self-sustaining. For the next hour, they worked. Sam, with a practical genius for machinery, began modifying a bulky wristwatch-like device from Danny's spare gear. Tucker wrote and rewrote code, creating a dampening algorithm based on the inverse of Naruto's energy signature. Danny hovered, offering insights into ectofield theory and making occasional runs to Sam's kitchen for snacks. Naruto watched, a strange feeling settling in his chest. This was teamwork. Not the seamless, practiced coordination of Team 7, but the frantic, brilliant collaboration of people using their unique skills to solve an impossible problem. For the first time since he'd been thrown into this world, he didn't feel like a burden. He felt like a mission objective they were all determined to protect. Finally, Sam held up the modified device. It was now a heavy, gunmetal gray bracer that fastened around the forearm. The Phantom Veil, Mark II. Try it on. Naruto strapped it on. It was cold and heavy. Tucker hit a key. A barely perceptible shimmer, like heat haze, radiated from the bracer and settled over Naruto. He felt a slight pressure, a muffling sensation, as if he'd been wrapped in a thin layer of cotton. Scanning, Tucker said, watching his monitors. His eyes widened. Whoa. It's working. His signature is fading into the background noise. It's not gone, but it's reading as ambient dimensional residue. The GIW scanners would have to be right on top of him to get a lock now. A collective sigh of relief filled the room. It was a temporary solution, but it was a solution. Okay. Problem 1, mitigated, Sam said, a note of pride in her voice. Problem 2, the GIW. We avoid them. That means staying off the grid. You both stay here. My parents are gone for 2 weeks. We have supplies. We lay low. And problem 3? Danny asked quietly. Vlad? Sam's expression darkened. Vlad is the real threat. He's patient. He's connected. And he knows we have to make a move eventually. We can't just hide from him forever. We need to understand what he wants with Naruto, specifically. He called me a key, Naruto remembered. Right before he tried to cage your mom. Danny's face hardened. A key to what? To stability, Kurama's voice rumbled unexpectedly in Naruto's mind, making him start. The fox had been unusually quiet. This Plasmius is a half-being, like the boy. But his energy feels strained. Forced. The union of human and ghost is not harmonious in him. It is a wound he powers through with will. Your new energy, it is a natural symbiosis. It is a stable bridge. For someone trying to master dimensional forces, to build something permanent between worlds, it would be the missing component. Naruto relayed Kurama's insight, simplifying it. He thinks my energy can help him control ghost power better. Or, build something. A new portal, Danny realized, horror dawning. A stable, permanent gateway he controls. Not like my parents' busted door. A superhighway. He could flood the world with ghosts. Or drain the ghost zone of its power. Or, both. The scope of Vlad's ambition was terrifying. He wasn't just a petty rival, he was a would-be emperor of the border between life and death. Then problem 4 is directly tied to problem 3, Sam concluded. The fracture spillage. If Vlad gets his hands on more corrupted fragments like the one in the cemetery, he could use them as a power source. Or worse, he could try to reverse engineer the fracture itself. A grim silence fell. The problems were a tangled knot, each thread pulling tighter around them. We need to go into the ghost zone, Danny said, the words heavy with reluctance. We need to scout. See if there are more fragments. Find out if the fracture did any other damage. And we need to do it before Vlad does. We? Naruto asked. You're not going, Danny said firmly. It's too dangerous. The zone reacts to living beings strangely. With your energy, you'd be a lightning rod. He's right, Sam said. But Danny, you can't go alone either. Not with Vlad on high alert. He'll be watching for you. I'll be fast. In and out. Just a reconnaissance. They argued, a quiet, tense debate about risk and necessity. Naruto listened, but his mind was elsewhere. He was a shinobi. Reconnaissance was a core skill. And he was the cause of this. Sitting in a safe house while Danny ventured into the lion's den alone felt wrong. It felt like failing a mission. As they debated, he studied the blueprints for the Spectre deflector still on Tucker's screen. The principle was inversion. Cancellation. Hiding. An idea, reckless and born of his particular brand of insane courage, began to form. He waited for a lull in the argument. What if, Naruto said, drawing their attention, I didn't go as me? He pointed to the schematics. The veil hides my signature by projecting an inverse field. What if, instead of inverting my energy to hide it, I inverted it to mimic something else? He looked at Danny. Could I use a transformation jutsu, powered by this teal energy, to make myself feel like a ghost to the zone? Danny stared at him. You want to transform into a ghost? Not just look like one, but feel like one? That's impossible. Your life force is too strong. My life force is now mixed with ecto energy, Naruto countered. The veil proves we can manipulate the interaction. I won't be a real ghost. I'll be a camouflage. A convincing copy. Good enough to pass a scan from a distance. Tucker's eyes lit up with programming fervor. A predictive algorithm. We use the veil's emitter, but instead of a blanket inversion, we code it to project the specific ecto signature of a common, low-level ghost type. Like a blob ghost. They're everywhere, energy-wise boring. You'd be a face in the spectral crowd. The energy cost would be huge, Danny protested. And if the disguise fails in the middle of the zone? Then we fight our way out, Naruto said, his voice leaving no room for doubt. But we do it together. I'm not letting you go alone, Danny. This is my fight too. The determination in his blue eyes was a physical force. Danny saw the same stubborn loyalty that had defined their cemetery fight. He'd fought alone for so long, bearing the weight of Amity Park in his secret. The offer to share the burden, from someone who truly understood the weight of power, was a lifeline he hadn't known he needed. Fine, Danny conceded, a grudging smile touching his lips. But we do it my way. My rules. The ghost zone isn't like anywhere you've ever been. The rules of reality are suggestions. The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Tucker and Sam worked furiously, hacking the veil's firmware and creating a blob ghost signature package. Danny drilled Naruto on Ghost Zone survival. Don't touch the floating islands of memory, avoid the rivers of time, ignore the whispers, and never, ever make a deal with a duplicate of yourself. As night deepened, they stood before a chalk circle Sam had drawn on the basement floor, a temporary, low-power summoning gate Danny could open with a focused effort. It wouldn't be a stable portal like the one in his basement, but a temporary tear. Ready? Danny asked, his body already glowing, legs dissolving into his spectral tail. The white hair, the green eyes, Danny Phantom was ready for war. Naruto fastened the modified veil bracer. He took a deep breath, feeling the teal energy within him. He didn't use hand signs. He focused on the feeling of the veil's projected field, on Danny's unique ecto-signature, on the cold, dead energy of the sample Tucker had taken. He willed his own chakra to wrap around that template, to become it. Transformation Jutsu, Ecto Shroud. There was no smoke. Instead, his form rippled. The bright orange of his jacket muted to a dull, shapeless gray. His spiky blonde hair seemed to soften and lose its color, becoming a vague, whitish mist around his head. His features blurred, his body losing defined edges, becoming a humanoid shape composed of swirling, semi-transparent vapor with two dim, green pinpricks for eyes. He looked like a sad, slightly confused cartoon ghost. More importantly, he felt different. Colder. Lighter. The vibrant, sun warmth of his chakra was still there, but buried deep, muffled under the projected ecto field. The veil on his arm hummed in sync with the illusion. Tucker scanned him. Reading is 98% blob ghost, 2% unknown atmospheric phenomenon. It'll hold. Probably. Good enough, Danny said. He focused on the chalk circle, his hands crackling with green energy. With a grunt of effort, he tore a hole in the air. The circle ignited with green fire, and beyond it, not a tunnel, but a swirling, toxic-looking green sky streaked with purple and black became visible. The air that washed through was cold and smelled of ozone, static, and something sweetly rotten. The Ghost Zone. Stay close, Danny said, his voice echoing slightly in the new acoustics. And remember the rules. Together, the ghost hero and the shinobi in spectral disguise passed through the tier, which sealed shut behind them with a sound like a sigh. Sam and Tucker were left in the sudden, profound silence of the basement. They'll be okay, right? Tucker asked, uncharacteristically quiet. Sam stared at the empty space where the portal had been, her fists clenched at her sides. They have to be. But in the infinite, chaotic expanse of the Ghost Zone, okay was a fragile concept. As Danny and his strangely convincing, blob ghost, companion navigated the floating debris of forgotten memories and jagged, emotional landscapes, they were not the only ones on the hunt. Deep within a floating fortress of bone and regret, a pair of eyes snapped open. Eyes that were not ghostly green, but a sharp, analytical brown, sharing a single field of vision. Two minds, one purpose. They had felt the fracture, a delicious new flavor of pain and power. And now, they felt the echo of its source, a faint but tantalizing beacon, moving through their realm. On a throne of spectral ice, the Ghost King, Pariah Dark, stirred in his eternal slumber, a low growl echoing through his tomb. A new power had entered his domain. A living power. And kings did not tolerate rivals in their kingdom. The sands of the Ghost Zone were shifting, and the arrival of Naruto Uzumaki had just started an hourglass neither world could afford to run out. Next. Chapter 6, Echoes in the Eternal. The Ghost Zone was not a place. It was a sensory assault. Naruto's first impression was of overwhelming, directionless vertigo. There was no ground, only fragmented islands of rock, crystal, and stranger substances floating in a void of swirling green and purple. The sky was a chaotic canvas of inverted waterfalls, floating clocks with broken hands, and distant, shifting shapes that might have been continents or sleeping beasts. The air, or what passed for it, was thick, cold, and carried whispers that weren't sound so much as emotions brushed directly against his mind, forgotten regrets, bursts of manic laughter, the hollow ache of eternity. His ecto-shroud disguise held, but it felt like wearing a thin sheet in a hurricane. The chaotic ambient ecto-energy pressed against the illusion, trying to find the warm, living core beneath. The veil bracer on his arm hummed a constant, stressed warning. This realm is a graveyard of consciousness, Kurama's voice was a low, wary growl in his mind. Every emotion, every memory discarded by the living ends up here, festering. It is a poison to the soul. Do not listen to the whispers, brat. They will seek a crack in your will. Danny flew beside him, a beacon of focused intent in the chaos. His form, usually so vivid against Amity Park's sky, seemed both more real and more spectral here, perfectly attuned to the environment. Stay on this thermal, he instructed, his voice echoing strangely. The currents are more stable. And don't look directly at the memory clusters. He pointed to a floating, gelatinous mass that pulsed with soft, sad light, showing flickering images of a birthday party no one attended. Naruto tore his gaze away, focusing on Danny's back. He moved not by flying, but by leaping from one floating chunk of debris to another, using chakra to stick to surfaces that had no right to hold his weight. His movements were a stark contrast to Danny's fluid flight, powerful, grounded pushes against solid matter in a realm where solidity was an illusion. "What are we looking for?" Naruto asked, his disguised voice a hollow rasp. "Energy spikes that match the hybrid," Danny said, his eyes scanning a handheld Fenton finder he'd brought. The screen was a mess of interference, but it was tuned to the unique corruption signature. Or any area of instability. The fracture was a wound. Wounds in the zone get infected. They navigated in silence for a time, a tense, watchful quiet. Naruto saw ghosts, real ghosts, going about their strange afterlives. A knight in armor jousted with a phantom dragon over a floating castle. A chorus of singing stars whirled in a nebula of their own making. A grumpy-looking blob ghost, the spitting image of Naruto's disguise, oozed past them, paying them no mind. The sheer, bizarre normalcy of it was disorienting. Then the finder chirped. A weak, but distinct, pulse on the edge of the scanner's range. A corruption signature, similar to the cemetery hybrid but different. Fainter, more diffuse. "Got something," Danny said, altering course. "This way." They descended toward a particularly grim-looking region of the zone. The floating islands here were jagged, dark basalt. The green of the atmosphere was stained with ugly blotches of rusty orange and bruised purple. The whispers grew louder, angrier, the echoes of violent deaths and unfinished vengeance. The source of the signal was a canyon carved into the underside of a massive, floating continent. As they drew closer, Naruto felt it, a sickly, familiar pull. Not the concentrated malice of the hybrid, but a spreading stain. A pool of viscous, orange-black liquid, like congealed shadow, seeped from the canyon wall into the zone. Where it touched the ambient ectoplasm, the green energy boiled and turned a sickly brown, forming twisted, half-realized shapes, screaming faces, clutching hands, that dissolved moments after forming. It was a weeping sore in reality. "It's not a fragment," Danny breathed, horror in his voice. "It's a leak. The fracture didn't just send pieces through. It punctured the barrier here. Your world's corrupted chakra is dripping into the ghost zone." The implications were staggering. This wasn't a one-time monster attack. This was a continuous contamination event. The toxic hatred energy of the Ten Tails and the ghetto statue was slowly poisoning an infinite dimension. The seal was a dam, Kurama realized, his mental voice grim. The overload cracked it. This is the seepage. It will not stop. And this realm, built on emotion, will amplify its toxicity exponentially. As they watched, a passing ghost, a mournful spirit in a tattered wedding dress, drifted too close to the seepage. A tendril of the orange-black liquid lashed out, not attacking her, but coating her. She shuddered, her form flickering. Her sad, green eyes flashed with sudden, irrational orange fury before she let out a distorted shriek and sped away, now radiating a confused, aggressive malice. "It's corrupting them," Naruto said, sickened. "Turning them into things like the box ghost hybrid, but worse. It's spreading the war here." Before they could decide what to do, a new presence made itself known. Not from the seepage, but from above. Well. What do we have here? The little prince and his pet cloud?" The voice was double, overlapping, one smooth and cynical, the other rough and impatient. Floating down to block the entrance to the canyon were two ghosts. One was tall and lanky, dressed in a tattered blue circus master's coat, with pale skin and sharp teeth. The other was shorter, bulkier, clad in a fur-lined parka, with a brutish face and small, angry eyes. They were conjoined at the back by a swirling, ectoplasmic tether. Skulker and Ember? No. These were different. Frighty. Klemper, Danny identified, his guard snapping up. "What do you want?" The tall one, Frighty, grinned. "We felt the shake-up. The big tear. Tastes new. Tastes powerful." His twin, Klemper, cracked his knuckles. "And we see you sniffing around the new watering hole. Found something tasty, Halfa? Gonna keep it all for yourself?" They were vultures, drawn to the scent of the corruption. And they saw Danny not as a protector, but as a competitor for a new resource. "This isn't a power-up," Danny snapped. "It's a poison. It's destabilizing the whole zone." "Poison, power, it's all energy," Frighty sneered. "We'll be the judge." His eyes, sharp and predatory, locked onto Naruto's disguised form. "And what's this?" A newbie? Smells odd. Like a fresh grave wrapped in sunlight. He floated closer, his long nose twitching. Your disguise is good, little blob. But the flavor underneath is intriguing. The veil was masking Naruto's signature, but it couldn't hide the innate quality of his life force from a ghost with sharp enough senses up close. Klemper grunted, peering at him. Not a blob. Something else. Something alive. The game was up. Naruto felt Danny tense beside him, ready to fight. But then, Friday's gaze shifted past them, into the seepage canyon. His eyes widened with avarice. Forget the appetizer. Look at the feast. A larger globule of the orange-black corruption had oozed free, condensing into a distinct, pulsing mass. It radiated pure, potent malice. With a shared cry of greed, the conjoined ghosts shot past Danny and Naruto, making a beeline for the corrupt mass. No! Don't touch it! Danny yelled, firing a warning ectoblast over their heads. They ignored him. Klemper reached out a grasping hand. The moment his ectoplasmic form touched the corruption, it wasn't an explosion. It was a fusion. The orange-black liquid raced up his arm, across the tether, and into Friday. They didn't scream, they howled, a sound of ecstatic, unbearable agony. Their forms swelled, muscles bulging with unstable power. Their eyes blazed with twin suns of orange fire. The circus coat and parka burned away, replaced by jagged, crystalline growths of the same corrupt material. They were no longer two ghosts. They were a single, monstrous entity, an unstable reactor of hatred and ectoplasm. Yes, the double voice roared, now harmonized into a deafening boom. Power. Real power. It turned on Danny and Naruto, its new, fused face a mask of mindless rage. It swung a fist, and a wave of corrosive orange energy, mixed with crackling green ecto-lightning, tore through the space between them. Danny grabbed Naruto and phased, the wave passing through them. But even in their intangible state, Naruto felt a searing heat, the chakra-based component of the attack could still affect them. We have to contain it. Danny shouted, already firing a rapid volley of ectoblasts. The blast splashed against the creature's chest, doing little more than angering it. Naruto landed on a floating rock, dropping the ecto-shroud. The disguise was useless now. Teal energy flared around him, a defiant counterglow to the monster's orange aura. He needed a different approach. Fighting it directly would just feed its chaotic energy. They needed to sever its connection to the seepage, to isolate it. Danny! Can you freeze the source? The leak in the wall? Danny understood instantly. He banked away from the monster's next wild swing and dove toward the canyon wall, where the corruption was still oozing out. He took a deep breath, his core glowing bright blue-white. Arctic aura. A wave of absolute cold, far more intense than anything he used in Amity Park, erupted from him. It flash-froze the seeping liquid, creating a brittle, blackened ice seal over the wound in reality. The flow of new corruption stopped. The fused monster, Friday Klemper, felt it immediately. It staggered, the constant influx of power cut off. The orange fire in its eyes flickered. It was now running on a finite charge. Now! Naruto yelled. He didn't form a Rasengan. He formed something simpler, more precise. Focusing the teal energy into a razor-thin line around his hand, he created a blade of pure, humming hybrid energy, a chakra ecto-saber. He couldn't fly, so he used the environment. He kicked off one rock, bounced off another, using the chaotic gravity of the zone to propel himself in a spiraling attack. Danny, meanwhile, went low, unleashing a barrage of ecto-energy nets, tangling the monster's legs and slowing it. Naruto's trajectory brought him slashing down across the ectoplasmic tether that still, visibly, pulsed with the corrupt energy. His teal blade sheared through it. The effect was instantaneous. The corrupted energy, no longer a circulating system, went critical. Friday and Klemper were violently wrenched apart, their forms screaming back into their individual shapes, trailing gouts of dissipating orange smoke. They collapsed onto separate rocks, shriveled, weak, and moaning in pain, the corrupting energy burned out of them. Silence returned to the canyon, broken only by the faint, pained whimpers of the two defeated ghosts and the low hum of Danny's frozen seal. Naruto landed beside Danny, panting. His teal blade dissipated. The fight had been short, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. His new energy was a scalpel against this specific infection. Danny looked from the sealed leak to the incapacitated ghosts, his expression grim. We stopped this one. But how many more leaks are there? He looked at the finder. The initial signal was gone, sealed off. But across the vast, infinite ghost zone, how many other scanners were now picking up new, strange energy signatures? The victory felt hollow. They had contained a symptom, not the disease. A deep, resonant gong sound echoed through the zone, felt in their bones more than heard. It was a sound of ancient authority, of borders being asserted. Danny's face went pale. No. Not now. From the direction of a distant, massive floating keep shaped like a skull, a wave of oppressive, kingly energy rolled out. It was a demand for attention, a summons. Pariah Dark, Danny whispered. The Ghost King. He felt the disruption. He's awake. And he's curious. The brief moment of respite was over. They had attracted the attention of the one entity even Vlad Masters treated with caution. The king of all ghosts had felt the tremor of Naruto's power, the tear in his realm's fabric, and the battle that followed. We have to go. Now, Danny said, grabbing Naruto's arm. Before his sentries find us. He concentrated, trying to reopen the tear back to Amity Park. The air wavered, but the green energy fizzled. The kingly aura was disrupting dimensional travel, locking down the neighborhood. He's blocking me, Danny said, panic edging his voice. Naruto looked around at the infinite, hostile expanse. They were stranded in a poisoned dimension with a wounded king hunting them. He felt a familiar, stubborn fire ignite in his gut. They'd faced worse. They'd face this too. Then we find another way out, he said, his voice steady. Or we make one. But as they prepared to flee deeper into the chaotic wilderness of the ghost zone, neither noticed a small, almost invisible drone, shaped like a robotic bat, detached from the shadows of the canyon wall. It had observed everything, the leak, the fight, the unique teal energy, the king's summons. With a silent flutter, it shot off into the green void, not towards Pariah's keep, but on a pre-programmed course back to a certain billionaire's penthouse. In his observatory, Vlad Masters received the data feed, a smile of profound satisfaction spreading across his face. A stabilizing force that can seal dimensional wounds, he mused, watching the footage of Naruto's teal blade and Danny's Arctic aura working in tandem. And the Ghost King is stirring. The board is set, the pieces are moving. He sipped a glass of wine, his eyes glowing with cold, pink light. Excellent. A frightened king is a predictable king. And a desperate boy is a controllable boy. He sent a new command. Not to capture. Not to confront. To observe, to pressure, and to wait. The prize would come to him. They always did.